Speaking of close encounters, have you personally had one of any kind or seen a UFO? Or if anything in the sky is a UFO until it's identified.
Until it's identified, yeah. Anything on the ground is also a UFO until identified.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've never seen a UFO by the popular definition of something that doesn't fall into the parameters of everyday science. I've seen things in the sky that I thought were UFOs and I hoped were UFOs, but turned out to be helicopters or launches from the Vandenberg Air Force Base.
Yeah, it's always disappointing when you find out that they were something else.
Yeah, yeah. I had to, it's funny because I have had such a yen to see one. I almost feel a little guilty that I've got Columbia to pay $18 million to let me see one of my own.
I may have once. I saw something that took the quick, the right angle turn that's always part of this that no aircraft could take and so on, and then vanish from sight. And do you know that Jimmy Carter, I think when he was governor, reported officially, wherever you send them in, I guess to the Air Force, two sightings that he made?
I read his reports, and I also was, the American Film Institute was having a benefit at the White House, and there was a receiving line, and Mr. Carter was greeting a lot of people from Hollywood, and I was on the line with George Lucas and some other people, and it was my turn to shake his hand. I said, you know, I'm amazed at your UFO reports when you were governor of Georgia, and I've read all about them. And he cut me off, and he sort of said very politely, well, I'm certain that your movie is a lot more interesting than my reports. And that was all I could get out of him about it.
Yeah, you don't want, when you're in politics, people going around saying, he sees flying saucers, you know. But I sure would love to see one. And I don't think, though, that I would do what I read you would do.
What was that?
That is go on the space shuttle if you could get space at in one of their early flights. Now, this may have been a columnist's dream.
Yeah, I think it was a columnist. I think what I said was that there are several people I know who I would like to send up on the space shuttle.
Oh, that's...
But I would...
It's amazing how a few words can change a quote.
You can change your whole quote entirely, yeah.
Well, when Alfred Hitchcock was sitting more or less where you are, I hit him, as they say, with his allegedly famous quote, or famous alleged quote, actors are cattle. And he said, I'd never say such an insensitive thing. What I said was actors should be treated as cattle. Which is a lot nicer.
A lot nicer, yes, of course.
We talked about Jaws.
Respond to that, yeah.
I took you back to Martha's Vineyard, a place you probably break out into rash, which is even mentioned now because of the long nightmare, really, I guess, of shooting Jaws.
A wonderful place to have a terrible nightmare.
We talked about it at great length before, so I won't do it again. But I did wonder if, had you that film to do over again, can you learn from an experience like that what's wrong, or could the next movie, what am I trying to say?
I mean, if I made Jaws 2, what would I have done that they didn't do that cost them twice as much as Jaws 1?
Yes. Good. You should sit here. That's what I wanted to say.
Yeah. I would have shot the film in a tank, actually, a lot of the more difficult sequences, and wouldn't have bothered. There's a tank at MGM that's huge, biggest one really in the world.
Yeah.
And I think I would have shot most of the close-up work in a tank.
I know of ironic things like that, where they've gone to great expense to do something in a real place, and then when they screen it, someone says, it looks artificial. Was that done in a studio?
Exactly.
Or the background is painted, isn't it? So, no, it's the sky.
It's the real thing, yeah. That's nothing worse than hearing that after you've come off of 7 months making a movie and somebody says, well, you know, this would be a lot easier to shoot in a doughboy in someone's backyard. And you just
a doughboy being, of course, a
wading pool.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Yeah. Can you tell anything from, you did one movie that people didn't flock to, 1941 was the name of the movie, I mean, not when you made it.
They flocked in Europe.
They
flocked to it in Europe.
It
does, but they didn't speak English, and the film was in English, so I'm not quite sure what they were flocking for, but they flocked to the movie in Europe. Matter of fact, it made most of its money back overseas.
How do you explain that? I like the posters for it. I like the...
Explain why they flocked to Europe or why it flopped in this country.
Why in this country? Well, I wasn't going to use such a harsh word as flop.
It's my movie. I can say anything I want.
Why was it such a turkey in this country?
Thank you very much.
That's a lot nicer.
I wouldn't have used that word. Well, it essentially, I can't, it's real hard to analyze what went wrong with the picture, except the story didn't work and none of the characters were likable and there was nothing to identify with, and
Little things like that.
It was too long. But aside from that, I'm very proud of a lot of the movie. I'm very proud of the dance sequence, which is like right in the middle of the film. And I was so happy with the dance sequence when it was over that I was really angry with myself for not making the entire film a musical. I think it would have taken the onus off of. There was an essential meanness about the movie that I think people resented, plus the fact that the film was sold as a spectacular when it was really a spectacle. Yeah. And it was sold as a comedy along the lines of Airplane when it really wasn't that much of a comedy, nor was it ever intended to be.
Well, that could be fatal if you.
There was a real.
People weren't expecting to laugh more than they get to.
Exactly, and they wanted to laugh every 30 seconds, and in fact, they got to laugh every 10 or 15 minutes.
And then they wonder if they're supposed to be laughing at what's there or not getting it.
And they see funny people, but they wonder why they're not being funny, and essentially it wasn't, not all of it was intended to be as funny as people expected.
With Belushi, you mean, for example?
Well, Belushi's that was pretty funny. I mean, I laugh about that when I see it now, on my little cassette at home. Yeah. But there were other stories. There were too many stories and too many subplots and too many characters, and I think Pauline Kael said it best. She said the film reminded her of having her head in a slot machine for 2 hours. You know? I mean, it's just a wonderful way of putting it. It was a pinball machine, having her head in a pinball machine.
Oh, I like the other one, too. Well, those are both good images. I wonder how she knows what that feels like. I have to find out. What do you feel about stunt people? I don't know how often I've confessed publicly that one of the professions I'm sorry I didn't go into among 2 or 3 is being a stuntman. I always wanted to be one. As a kid, I practiced falling out of trees, off garages. Jim McConnell and I used to ride our bikes up ramps and crash them into cardboard boxes, and or borrowed bikes if we could get them. Now, how do you, as we sit here now, which is what, June? Yeah. When you're on tape, you're not in the same month. A lady is suing some movie company for millions for not taking enough precaution in a stunt she was in. A water stunt, I believe. It was annoying the way it was reported on the show, news show I saw, because they didn't tell, what the stunt was. But how do you cover those people? Well, they are taking a chance.
Every movie has a stunt gaffer, or stunt wrangler. You know, we had. Every film also has fly wranglers and ant wranglers and snake wranglers. We talked about that before from Raiders, but one of the most important, functions on a film, especially the size of Raiders, is to have a stunt coordinator. And Glenn Randall was the stunt coordinator on Raiders of the Lost Ark, and his responsibility was to keep everybody safe through a stunt and create an illusion more than an actual fall or an actual drag behind the truck. And in fact, people were being dragged behind trucks and under trucks and falling out of windows and going through windows, and it was filled with close calls. But at the same time, safety is first. Everything is choreographed to the point that I'm pulling my hair out saying we've got to go, we're behind schedule, where you can't rush the stunt people because they will move slower. The faster you push them, the slower they'll go, because their closest friends, their drinking buddies, the guys that go off and do the Miller's commercials when they're through making movies, are the same people who put their lives on the line. And it really is a life situation, life and death situation.
Do you know situations, obviously without naming names and so on, where the stuntmen have been unnecessarily endangered and in fact maimed and killed? I know one lost both legs. Is it Yvonne DiCarlo's husband?
I'm not sure. In the helicopter accident, you mean?
This was 2 trains.
There was a famous helicopter accident where there was actually, it wasn't a stuntman, he was a cameraman with a special Tyler mount out to the back of a Jet Ranger, the side of a Jet Ranger, and he went too low to another helicopter below him, and he lost his legs. And that same man on the making of Catch-22, which sounds really kind of strange, but he was killed in a fall, in a mishap on a B-17, or B-25, I mean, during the shooting in Mexico. I mean, it's not just stuntmen, it's really the tragedy last week where we lost Boris Segal, a very, very excellent and wonderful director and human being who walked into the back rotor blade of a propeller.
Propeller?
Yeah, he's the man who directed Masada for television.
That's right, the man who directed that Masada was killed that night.
And so, I mean, the hazards making movies are surrounded. There's something that happens when you're making a film, especially with directors and cameramen, and that is when your eye is through the camera, you are taken away to a Never Never Land, a kind of reality Oz. And you suddenly, with the eye glued to the camera, nothing can happen to you. You could be on the edge of a train looking through a viewfinder. heading towards a tunnel with no clearance, and as far as you're concerned, it's only a movie until everything goes black and then white.
It looks like a movie in there.
Yeah, and I think it's almost the sirens that are calling you, and it's a danger. You have to always be aware that once your eye's in the camera, there are dangers all around.